All right, we're back in business. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about the completed project funding return form for pickleball courts? Nope. Okay, that's good because I've already signed it.
You need to take a vote because it says you took a vote.
Oh. My apologies. Would somebody like to make a motion that we seek the return of the pickleball court contingency funds by submitting the project funding return form to accounting?
So moved.
And is there a second? Okay. And all those in favor by show of hands? It's unanimous. Did I give this to you or to Betsy?
You know how I am with paid as people laugh.
Okay, so next up, an update on the Johnson farmland, right of first refusal and next steps. I will ask ready to put on her open space hat.
So right now, we're still looking into options. The price tag is pretty high. And as you know, we use up a lot of the CPA, all of the CPA funds for a while at 1%. Doesn't mean it's not a worthwhile project to do that. I think we still need to consider looking into it. There's we're aware there's other big ticket items coming up for the town. And not just the school. For the Open Space Commission, we're aware that the farm dump at Breakneck Hill may come in well over what we allocated at town meeting. And if there's a big bump, we won't know. We won't know that for a while, but it's going to make people less likely to want to fund because there's no way to fund this just with CPA money. So we're aware of that. We're looking into other options and funding and with CPA contributions. So that would not, if we could move forward, we'd still be looking for some CPA contributions. So far, it seems that Shopsy is still on board for housing, although the Affordable Housing Trust Fund seems to not be, but I haven't heard them take a vote. But it seems there isn't any enthusiasm. So we're still working on it too, so you know. So that could be a project.
So did you know if they actually discussed this or did the selectmen discuss this?
I haven't seen it on their agenda. So we need to do a little bit more work and then have something to go to ask them to put on their agenda. But the issue is, as far as we're concerned, or all of the information I've gotten is there is no PNS. So the right of first refusal hasn't been triggered.
Right.
And we have some questions, maybe work with planning or someone to get them a submittal to town council. Like if it hasn't been submitted, can the town approach the family legally? Because they don't have, is this a legal agreement? They're required to do certain things under chapter 61. And if they're in a legal binding agreement, then you can't talk to a property. But the fact that it's not a bona fide offer for chapter 61, does that mean it's not a real legal agreement? Because you can't have an agreement for chapter 61 that's not a bona fide offer. So if there's complications, we'd like to know the answers to, because if it's not a real offer, could the town go in and say, ask about split?
Yeah.
Or can we partner with someone else to maybe purchase some of it and the town? I mean, you think of things that then you find out later that it's crazy because it's not legal with municipal, procurement laws. But, if you don't ask, you don't find out. And so that's where we are right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I wish I'd phrased this agenda item a little bit differently. There's a little bit more to discuss, but I'll handle some of this under the chair report. But a discussion of CPA members' reappointment or lack thereof at the most recent, select board hearing. 3 members of CPC are currently up for reappointment. Myself, Kristen, and Lisa, their terms have all, come up. In years past, the standard procedure is that there's really a warm body interested in volunteering for the town, they get appointed. That wasn't what happened at the select board hearing. One member in particular wanted to use this as an opportunity to, I think, have the committee come in to talk with the select board. Mr. Hamilton was very clear that he he feels that the select board is the town's executive body and that they should set the policy for all boards, committees, and commissions that they appoint. That the members of those boards, committees, and commissions are then beholden to implement policy as set by select board. As part of the discussion on members' reappointment. It sounded like he wanted us to come in to explain that to us. I'll speak on that first. I don't know what everyone else has to say.
I'll speak last, how's that?
Okay. So, each of us, when we accepted our appointments, swore oath to town clerk, solemnly swear you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent upon you as a community preservation committee member in accordance with the bylaws of the town of Southborough and the laws of the Commonwealth. Nowhere in there do we swear allegiance to the select board, but we do swear that we will uphold our town bylaws and the laws of the Commonwealth. Went through this most recent time, again, both Chapter 9, Article 4 of our Southborough Town Code, which establishes the CPC and lists our duties. It's very clear in looking through town code that Community Preservation Committee is intended to be an independent body, independent of the select board, and that the Community Preservation Trust Fund was intended by town meeting in 2003 to be administered completely outside of the town's normal funding process as handled by the Board of Select. Community Preservation Fund was taken outside of their control, put in under the administration, if you will, of this independent body. And that looking through Chapter 44B, Community Preservation Act, it's clear that that's the intent of the act when it was first passed by the legislature. That this one small slice of municipal funding is to be administered independent of the municipality's normal funding process to fund these often forgotten types of projects in towns: open space, historical preservation, community housing, and recreation projects. We have been fulfilling our responsibility. I'm proud of what we've done. I think at least what Mr. Hamilton seems to envision is that we would be a committee, basically a bobblehead to all, just nodding yes, their requests. And I think if that's the expectation, I think they may have. I try not to speak for the committee. In this one instance, I feel pretty comfortable saying that if that's their expectation, I think they've appointed the wrong folks to the committee. It was a little troubling to hear that. That was the first reason, I think, why the select board wanted us to come in and discuss these reappointments. Kristen and Lisa and Grant were there at the meeting. I watched the video. Kristen, I agree with what you said at the meeting, that it sounded like some of their comments were directed at you. And I want to point out that nobody questioned or raised questions about how you have fulfilled your duties as a committee member, which you have absolutely 100% done. You are a fully engaged member. You show up to every meeting prepared. You show up to the meetings, and you clearly fulfill the oath that you swore with town clerk. I didn't hear one criticism of you in terms of fulfilling that role. You have been outspoken on a couple of issues that you disagree strongly with the select board on. Frankly, being involved in town politics, as we learned this past application cycle in the late fall and winter and early spring, sometimes you have to do things and say things that other people don't like, and they let you know about it. It's uncomfortable. You don't like it, but that's part of what we volunteered for. I would suggest that the select board, that would apply to them more than pretty much any other body in town. They are the town lightning rods. There are people that are going to disagree with them. Town government is stacked with people with the same broad diversity of opinion as the community at large, generally, I think. And that means some people in town government are also not going to agree with them. To use that as a reason to not reappoint somebody, especially the Community Preservation Committee, where we already, tonight we were able to assemble a bare quorum. Looking back over this past year, roughly 30% of the time, that's what we have as a bare quorum. If we've lost a member, it's going to grind to a halt. We won't be able to get any work done at all. So I will say that I got a call from Andrew Dennington this afternoon, and I raised all these points with him. And I intend to raise them all again on the 18th. So on the reappointment, that's my piece. And love to hear what everybody else has to say.
Sorry. I'll go before you if you want. I'm just saying what you want to say.
Gathering my thoughts.
Go ahead.
I don't think I have a lot to add. I did speak at the meeting. I was disappointed then and continue to be disappointed. I actually went back and watched it again.
Yes, and thank you for speaking at the meeting. It's, you did a wonderful job.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And just to your last point, then I think that might be what Mr. Hamilton wants. That, we know that he doesn't like the CPA. We know that he came before us and we had a conversation and it was civil, but we could tell that we have a disagreement, and he probably knows that if 3 of our members don't get reappointed, that we're going to fail to meet and fail to exercise our responsibilities, and that's probably what he wants, I think. So I think it's a sleazy way to go about it personally, but I'm looking forward to talking about it on the 18th.
Thank you, Grant. I think you have nailed that.
I potentially have a lot to say that I've been going back and forth on whether to say it. Here we are. So I'll go ahead with that. I took notes. This is how I work. So I wanted to begin with the 3 of you up for reappointment. That you all serve on multiple committees, were selected by your peers on those committees to bring your local knowledge, dedication, and service to the CPC. In addition, as we all know, Lisa was elected by the citizens of Southborough to represent us on the planning board. I have served on the CPC for about 9 months as a citizen at large, and therefore the select board is my sole appointed authority. I've lived in Southborough for 3.5 years, was interested in becoming more involved in the community, particularly around the issue of affordable housing, an area I've devoted my career to for the past 12 years. I explored the town website, read about the various committees working to that end, submitted an application listing several vacancies I might be interested in. Through helpful email correspondence, Melanie at the town connected me with Ben to talk more about the ongoing work of the various committees and what might be the best fit. In a lengthy phone conversation, Ben thoughtfully talked through the roles and work of the committees I was considering, asked more about my background and interests. After that conversation and Ben encouraging me to pursue whichever committee I was most interested in, I moved forward with joining the CPC. To complete my appointment, I attended a select board meeting in October 2023. I shared a bit about my background and interest in the CPC and had a brief but pleasant conversation with the board. The only question asked of me was whether I regularly watch CPC meetings, to which I responded I try to watch whenever possible and otherwise review the meeting minutes to stay informed about the committee's work. After that question, I was unanimously voted onto the CPC. I share this process to underscore that at no point was I asked to endorse the policy positions of the select board as a condition of my appointment to the CPC. And I believe that's true for all of us. In fact, at no point was I provided with the policy positions of the select board regarding their vision for the appropriate use of CPA funds. I will add that according to the town's website, the express charge of the CPC is to quote, study the needs, possibilities, and resources of the town regarding community preservation. The committee shall consult with existing town boards, including the Historical Commission, Housing Authority, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Recreation Commission, Open Space Preservation Commission, and as it said, the Board of Selectmen in conducting such studies. At the last select board meeting on Tuesday, one member described his quote, parliamentary view of participation in town meetings, end quote, town committees. But we do not operate in a parliamentary system in this town. Committee members do not sign on to a party list or platform when we volunteer our time to serve our town. The 5 select board members were not elected on a common platform, so it is also unclear to me whose agenda committees would be serving. We all bring our own expertise, knowledge, and commitment to try to best fulfill the mission and obligations of our committees, just as select board members do to their board. The board discussed at their last meeting that they do not, quote, want to rubber stamp committee appointments, which shows the care that the select board gives to their responsibilities. So I would invite them to transparently and clearly lay out their process for considering committee volunteers. If they believe it is the role of committee volunteers to implement their agenda, I would strongly disagree, but regards that at the very bare minimum, they would need to communicate that agenda with potential volunteers when we are under consideration for appointment by the board. To not do so and then state, as one member did on Tuesday, that committee members who disagree with even one member of the select board on the proper functioning of their committee, and quote, if you can't support the positions of the elected board, the honorable thing in my opinion is to resign, end quote, I believe is an overstep of authority. Everyone here is and should be working for the citizens of Southborough. In the case of the CPC, that means bringing not just, to use their words, a rubber stamp to applications in front of us, and especially not to conversations about transferring thousands of dollars of our town funds to other committees without so much as an application before us, let alone a vision of how those funds will be spent. In addition, at Tuesday's meeting, the select board held reappointments of members of SHOPC because the board is reconsidering how the town's housing committees best align their efforts. I fully support that effort of exploring realignment and believe we should and can be doing more to support affordable housing in our town. But I do not understand why it would be appropriate to withhold reappointments to one housing committee while these conversations are ongoing, while at the same time transfer thousands of dollars of CPA funds to another housing committee that is part of the same realignment conversation. To completely circumvent the processes the CPC has spent considerable time and effort to develop and refine for applying for CPA funds at the request of one member of the select board would be an irresponsible dereliction of our duties. The members of the CPC take our responsibilities seriously when we volunteer our time and bring care, thought, and insight to improving our town's open space, recreation, history, and community housing. I won't speak for everyone, but I'm open to continue to improving how our committee operates. I believe we all share that. I won't speak for anyone. And we welcome the opportunity to do so in partnership with the select board and all of the committees and commissions working collaboratively for our town.
Thank you. Wow, yeah. Mic drop. I don't know that I'm gonna say anything tonight after that. I think, I wish I could have, used your comments at the select board meeting. I think that was very eloquent. I think that was very well said. And, anything more I might add would change the tone that you have now set. So I'm all set. I have nothing further to say. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm taking a page out of your book with one asterisk first, and thank you.
Well, of course.
Because we all know, speaking at in Grant, we all know anyone who's spoken at a select board meeting, it's not easy, and we saw the reasons why. The other day, we reacted out of being not expecting that conversation to be happening, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Ironically, just that day earlier, I'd gotten my notice asking if I wanted to re-up. And I had a conversation, and there's someone out there who can validate this at Fitzgerald's store that afternoon saying, you know, I'm just not sure. Because I saw what they did to other people, and I'm afraid of putting myself out there. I have children.
Yeah.
And then I called into the select board meeting as I will, and you know, what happened. So I reacted with passion. And of course, afterwards, anyone who's spoken to me, you're like, oh. What really hit home for me, and the one thing I'm gonna say just to add to it, is to my daughter, who I learned this when I started watching meetings, she told me she watched that meeting. And I'll say that as a businesswoman, I'd say, oh, I shouldn't have reacted that way. I wish I had known that was coming. I would have had a much more calm reaction. But the fact is, I didn't know it's coming. I reacted with passion, and I'm okay with that. Because you know what? We need passion in this community right now. Kind of like the national stage. Now is not the time to be passive. There's a lot of big decisions coming up, and a lot of decisions are being made for the community on their behalf that they may not be aware of. So I'm gonna stick by my passion. Maybe try to reel it in a little bit more, but I just really appreciate the words said by the committee tonight, and I appreciate it.
All right, I changed my mind. Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
So I just wanted to share something that happened last night, and I'm not gonna do this in a negative light. I find this amazing. So my son and I were up to dinner when I got a text that you need to go on the Zoom. So long story short, I left to go to the townhouse, put my hand up, raised my hand. I wasn't acknowledged until the next conversation was already indicated. But my positive that I'm taking away from this is, I said to my son, he's an elected official in this town as well for the housing authority. I said, go home, you know, I'll get a ride home, or you can come back and get me. After I got up and spoke, now again, I as well, Kristen, I'm not gonna say I was passionate, I was frustrated, I was downright angry. But I will tell you, my son came, he was listening at home, and he was so frustrated and angry at the words he was hearing come out of the town official's mouth, you know, about our democracy and our right to serve. And if you don't follow the line that they take, he was gonna speak. And I said, don't you dare, don't you dare, stand enough, one of us is up here. But I will tell you, he plans on speaking at the next meeting. I mean, we are talking, your daughter's talking about it, Kristen, my son's talking about it. We are setting a course for our next generation here. And is this the course we want to take? Is to allow an elected official, which I'm one as well, but tell me that I can't serve unless I align with the policies and the agenda of the select. Now, I'm not saying all of the select board agreed with that, but not one of them stood up and said, I disagree with it. So I look forward to the conversation, and Ellen, I hope I didn't ruin what you wrote, because I'm so touched, and I could not have put it in better words. But and I just want to say one other thing. I received, and I'm not kidding, upwards between 90 and 100 phone calls, texts, and emails from people. And I will tell you, I am so humbled by the support of people in this town that saw an injustice, you know, happening. And it wasn't about me, it was about the committees that were held. You know, there were people that called about open space that were frustrated about that. So again, the community is watching, and I hope the select board take that into account with the rest of their discussions. Thank you.
Last, on the topic
Ben,
of,
sorry.
oh, I'm sorry, please,
Can I add something?
of course.
Don't let it get you down. So just like we're talking about the beauty of having diversity of thought in our town, in public squares, at town meeting, even on our boards, that board has diversity of thought. It's just that you have a weak board. So you have one person who has a very extreme opinion, and unfortunately, others who didn't stand up for what they know is right. But don't fall to that one person. You have to keep fighting, because that's not it's not appropriate. That's not really Southborough. It's not democracy. It's not like anything that we recognize as good. The other thing I wanted to say is, you're a bylaw committee, and what you're doing is you're following Mass General Law to the best of your ability. You cannot succumb to what somebody else tells you. Just like if you're on a permitting board, or, I'm struck by this whole conversation because I served with, for example, Andrew Dennington on ZBA. And sometimes he would vote one way and I would vote another. And not once did he say something to me and say, oh, why? He'd say, I can't believe you voted that way. I said, I didn't think you'd vote that way. And we would just laugh it off and say, well, when you hear a matter and you do the best that you can, that's what you're doing when you're serving the town. I don't know what happens when you get to the select board. I don't really know, but, you guys have a job to do, and you can't listen to Al Hamilton. You just can't. Hopefully the other committee members, the board members will realize that, you're serving the town, and you should continue to serve the town. And there'll be consequences if you're not serving the town. But I think it's just one member, and I think the other 4 are weak. And that, to me, is the bigger problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're gonna have diversity of thought, right? And that's it. But it's that the other ones won't stand up. I hope on the 18th they'll stand up.
Thank you. So it's this business of failing to reappoint. Something similar happened to Dory Andrzejewski. Equally troubling. The way it was done was really, really difficult to watch. That caused me to look into our town bylaw at the time. That says the committee shall be appointed by the select board and shall consist of the following members. One member of the historical commission as designated by the commission. The committee shall be appointed by the select board and shall consist of the following members. One member of the historical commission as designated by the commission. And the whole list goes down the list. One member of the housing authority as designated by the authority. Goes on conservation, planning, recreation, open space, SHOPSI. And then finally, 2 at-large members to be appointed by select. I understand they got an opinion from town council that it sounds like that fixated on the beginning there, the committee shall be appointed. Sounds like in town council's opinion, that means they can appoint or not appoint the designated member. They can choose simply not to appoint somebody because they have appointing authority. Well, it's interesting. If you go to the Community Preservation Act, MGL Chapter 44B, Section 5A, the language is a little bit different there. The committee shall consist of not less than 5 or more than 9 members. The ordinance of bylaw shall determine the composition of the committee, the length of its term, and the method of selecting its members, whether by election or appointment or by a combination thereof. The committee shall include, but not be limited to, 1 member of the Conservation Commission, as designated by the commission, 1 member of the Historical Commission, as designated by the commission, 1 member of the Planning Board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The state law can't be more clear. And then finally, annual town meeting in 2003, it's very clear the intent of town meeting was to dictate that the select board appoint the members that are designated by their committee. I think the select board is violating the will of town meeting, but also violating our town bylaw and violating the Community Preservation Act. Now, town council has offered the opinion that they are not, but my experience with attorneys, when they say something like that, that means they're prepared to argue it, but it doesn't by any stretch mean that it's a settled fact. The unfortunate thing here is that to get this issue settled in court, somebody has to spend tens of thousands of dollars on an attorney and go fight it out. Very few people are positioned to do that. That's unfortunate. But to be clear, I think the select board, in failing to appoint the designees of these various town bodies, I think they're breaking the law.
And one last thing then.
Hmm.
One of the things that was said, and you mentioned it as well, was that they didn't want us to rubber stamp committees is what they said. You know, that, and again, conversation is great. I don't think any one of us has an issue with the conversation. But they rubber stamped over 45 members last night. Some of them, they didn't even know what the expiration dates were. So to me, and this is me personally, it seems vindictive, if I can. It seems like there's an agenda and there's a reason why these four were held. Now, maybe we'll hear more about it on the 18th. But I would like to set the expectation, and I hope the selectmen are gonna rewatch this. I would set the expectation that it's done with grace, with dignity, and there is no attacks on anybody. At the end of the day, we are all volunteers here. And again, I hope you're listening. We are volunteers, and there is a reason people aren't stepping forward to volunteer, and this is exactly it. So please use your big girl and big boy pants at the meeting and have a civil conversation. So I will leave it at that.
Lisa, I don't think we have to guess that it was vindictive. I think Mr. Hamilton stated openly. You wrote, for example, on stewardship committee, they wrote a letter that I didn't like. It was against our position, therefore I don't want to reappoint you.
Yeah.
That is political and it's vindictive. It's all there is.
Thank you, Grant. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, I'll check in with the committee. I think I know the answer to this. Would you like me to host a meeting for the 18th?
Yes,
Okay.
and can I offer a suggestion?
Yes.
To that meeting, instead of just having you and Kristen sit at that table, I would like to make a circle of the chairs and all five of us sit together.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, as a sign of strength, and I'm sure, I know I've got stuff I want to say.
Yep.
And Ellen, I hope you will share some, if not all, of what you wrote.
And that was
That's just bottom. It was really, really,
6. Yeah, we've got Brett also. 5 here tonight, but Brett.
okay, so I mean, we'll
Yeah.
make the room. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we should all be sitting there as a group instead of 2 in front and.
Yeah.
It's a position of weakness.
Okay.
You know, I just think we're all strong members and 6, you're correct. All 6 of
I
us are
think you're
strong
right.
members and we have strong opinions, so
Yep. And I think when our agenda item is called, we all en masse go up as a committee.
absolutely.
Yep.
Can I-
Yes, please.
I've heard, but I'm not sure, but that each committee that's being called up is going to be given like 20 minutes.
20 minutes each is fine for me.
Each person, times 6.
No, I'm sorry, the conversation will not be stopped.
So that-
And I have no problem.
I'm not saying stop. I was just concerned that for the Open Space Preservation Commission, that we wouldn't be allowed to speak, that they would just, you know, somebody reading in the riot act and then,
Mhm.
and then it's over. And
So-
so I've been told we are expected to give some sort of presentation, but our being held might be different than the CPC.
So Ben, when you get your invitation
Yes.
for us to come, can you let them know that, the committee members wish to speak?
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't view there being a timeline. I'm sure you can make it much nicer than that, but yeah.
And I received a good piece of advice today. You know, talking about it, reflecting on, you know, my reaction the other day, and they said, well, you didn't know what's coming.
Right.
So I would offer to you that I would like to know what's coming, meaning what questions do you have for us?
Yep.
And that if anything else comes up that I'm not prepared to address, I've learned I think it had to be addressed quite frankly the other night, but you know, we deserve to know in advance what's going to be expected and asked of us. This is not meant to be a surprise,
That shouldn't be any ambush.
right?
Feels to me like we almost have to justify our existence.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's really important, and the other committees too, we're talking about merging stewardship and open space. Eliminating one, Shopsy of course is going through, they're trying to eliminate it anyway, but. That's how it feels to me, that he obviously wants to eliminate us and this is his method of doing it.
I thought I heard the words report card or performance review or something in there, and I'm like, well, let's turn that one around too. If we're gonna do it for one, we need to do it for all.
And I think one last thing, man, I'll shut up, I promise.
We don't have to.
I think that because you choose to serve your community, doesn't mean you lose your right to speak. It doesn't mean you lose First Amendment to voice what you say, and the selectmen don't have to like it. I mean, there was a case recently where it came down to the freedom of speech. And I don't think anyone, and I don't think our Constitution says anyone loses their right to be able to voice frustrations, concerns. When people come in here, they have a right to speak. They want to come in and tell us we're doing a horrible job. That's okay.
They've done it.
Does that mean we hold an application against them? No, we've
Absolutely,
always
yeah.
considered and we've done things fairly.
Yeah.
And I think that really comes into play here is, we as citizens and taxpayers have a right to disagree with the select board if we so choose outside of being a member of this committee. You don't lose your voice. And that's one of the things I'm going to stress, just so no one is surprised by the path I'm going down.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, anybody else on this agenda item? Nope. Okay. Next up is chair report. I got an email yesterday morning from Al Hamilton. I'm gonna read it to you. Ben, I sat down with Carla earlier this week and went over the attached list. Just a side note, it's an Excel spreadsheet listing all of the Community Preservation Committee's current active projects. Projects that have not been closed out. Continuing. It concerns me greatly that we have projects up to 17 years old that have not been properly closed out. 11 unclosed projects are at least 10 years old. I know you are working on this, but it would be helpful to report significant progress before the next select board meeting. Thanks, Al. So, we've been asked to get projects closed out, starting 7 or 8 months ago. We first started getting these requests. I became chair, as I've said a couple of times tonight, about almost exactly a year ago. And I think folks will recall during this last application cycle, we simply did not have the bandwidth to take on other projects outside of the application process. We, the time of volunteers is precious and limited, and we simply didn't have extra time to devote to this. It wasn't there. When we finally did have time this spring, I made the decision to try to tackle the application process, put together, a written document to sort of codify how the application process works, so we don't have a repeat of last year or the year before. Keep things organized and efficient for us, for applicants, and all stakeholders. It was a very important thing to do, and I'm proud of the work we did on that. Here's why I didn't make the first priority recovering these funds. Because it just wouldn't matter. That's why. And here's why it wouldn't matter. The committee's not going to be making any funding recommendations to all special town meeting. We discussed that. We're not going to be doing that. There were none on the horizon. Mr. Hamilton came in to discuss one possibility. The committee, I think, spoke very clearly that for a variety of reasons, that's not going to happen. So that means that these funds that are on outstanding projects, first, let me go back and say, no project has been denied funding because of these outstanding funds. It has not caused any project to be denied funding, number one. Number two, these funds, let's say that they were recovered tomorrow morning. They can't be appropriated until annual town meeting next spring. They can't even be spent until July 1st, 2025. What is the mad rush that we need to show significant progress by the 18th? It's a made up, ridiculous deadline, not based in reality. I think I made the right decision, prioritizing the correct thing So that we will still be able to, the plan is Freddie and I are gonna work during the summer to go through this list of projects. It's a little more difficult than sitting down with a list in a spreadsheet and saying, oh yeah, take back this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. We have to go through, physically visit the projects, look through the applications, the warrant articles, make sure that all the obligations have been taken care of. There's work that's involved, in this. It doesn't just happen by itself. And now we're going to do that at the appropriate time. We'll take care of it this summer, so that when we meet again in September, we'll have a list of projects, but where the status is absolutely known, and we'll know what projects we can submit project closeout forms on. And this won't affect the funding or the fundability of any project coming to us.
So. Thank you. It's funny.
Okay, anything further on that? Let's see. Right. Okay, no, that's all I got.
Oh, I have something.
Yeah,
for-
please.
The requirement that there be signage. And I just realized we closed out the Northborough gone project without knowing that there's signage there. We paid the bill in full. I don't have any doubt that they will put the signage, but I think that needs to be followed up. It was just a miss. It was exciting to have the project done, and in that case, we didn't go out and inspect the project because we had the professionals signing off on it, and if we can't, if you can't, what are we going to do? Say, yeah, there's a pickleball court. You can't trust the engineers and all the people that were hired for that. That's a whole nother level of problem, but I think we need to, over the summer, I think we need to follow up, and
Yep.
You and I can follow up with the Northborough Southborough Regional School to see what signage is going to be there,
Yes.
but I just want, a lot of the projects that are outstanding didn't get their signage done, and there's a couple of different special situations. And I know when I drive around the state, I'll be somewhere and all of a sudden I'll see a bid, paid for by the Community Preservation Act. And like Orleans, Mass has some amazing ones. And I was in Newton driving down Center Street and I saw one. I actually had a hard time pulling over on Center Street to find a place to park to take a picture. But I mean, it was a big sign outside of a cemetery on Center Street in Newton, if you ever happen to be there. The submarine or the ship that, not the submarine, the ship that did the big rescue, there was a movie about it. You ever get a chance in Orleans Harbor? I mean, fascinating CPA funded project restoration, and you see these signs, and we have some, but a lot of times they're small, or you don't have a standard form or sign, and people ask for them. And we haven't, the committee, the committee hasn't come up with a designated, this is what we want, and people need that. So I think that's something everyone could look at over the summer and come back in the fall to be sure, maybe different size things for different projects. Like the first round of books that the town clerk did,
Stickers.
Paul, he had all the books had stickers on it. Now that we're going to different, I don't know if they have books anymore, so how is that being designated? You open up that book, Community Preservation Act monies. And I think we do have language that it's the citizens of Southborough funded this project through the Community Preservation Act, giving credit where the credit is, acknowledging that it's taxpayer monies that has been, designated to fund these projects. So I think that would be helpful moving forward. And then one other thing we did in the past is we had liaisons to different projects that kind of walked the project through a little bit. So more recently, it was just me going out and checking and then sending pictures back. But I think there's value in having a liaison to these, especially these open ones that need some fine tuning to close them out.
Yeah.
And that list that of what the fine tune, like. I kind of know almost, we've done this before, made the list, and I'm pretty confident on which ones are still open, which ones are ready to close, and which ones need some more fine tuning, and, you know, we can put that list together and then be ready to go. But I think the signage is one of the bigger ones, stopping things.
I think the signage is really important. I know that the historical commission recently has been doing a lot with, we got the National Register District
Yeah.
signs, even though. We've had a National Register District for 3 years, we finally have the signs, but now people actually recognize that it exists, that it's there. Especially as we. Seem to be struggling to. Fight for. The existence of CPA in Southborough perhaps, or at least, showing people the value, then I think having that out there, it's helpful.
And the house signs, you got two.
Yes,
Those are
house
really
signs,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, they are.
And I think you could also look at finished projects to see if the signage is appropriate.
Basketball, right? Well, Fayetteville in general.
Yeah, is it,
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to be overpowering, but sometimes it's been underwhelming.
Mhm.
Unnoticeable. And it might be there, so I think that's a good PR piece and a good, it's a requirement of the application, so, we need to follow through on that. I'll do some of that and.
Yeah, so, speaking of the summer, I talked about this with Freddie a little bit, I guess, part of the chair report also. We need to have and maintain a CPA plan, one of our statutory responsibilities. I'm gonna try to find the time this summer to just take what we have and get it together into a draft that we can look at early on in the fall. And sort of build from there and get a document that we're all comfortable with. I think it's important to have a list of priorities that we can refer to when we are evaluating projects in sort of this new limited funding environment.
Yeah.
I think that's what that plan is intended to help us with, so. Just one of my plans for the summer. That I think is it for chair report. Next up, next meeting dates. So we're talking about I think a Zoom meeting. After the 18th. I would say that
How's the 19th?
Yes, like people.
So,
I'm joking.
yeah, it's a holiday.
I was kidding.
oh,
But I
okay.
was actually thinking the 20th, I'm like, well, it's fresh on minds, because then vacations do kind of kick in the next week, and
I
I could do it, but I'd be on vacation.
I can't do the 20th. Although if there's a quorum without me,
No.
No.
Thank you, we're good.
yeah, I've got conservation that night. I could do the 19th.
This meeting is like a recap of to talk about what. happened.
Assuming we're probably gonna have something to talk about.
Okay.
Cause either you're not gonna have a quorum,
Yeah.
or,
And the letters of
The
expectation.
list of expectation. Yeah, we have to get those buttoned up by July 1st. So, I mean, I can do the next week, the week of the 24th, especially by Zoom. I mean, I could do
yeah,
it literally
I'm flexible
any day.
on Zoom too.
Lisa, does the planning board have a meeting on the 24th?
We do not. Our next meeting is the 17th, and then we go until the 22nd of July.
So the
I have
24th
historical
is a
on the
Monday.
25th, so I can't do that.
Okay, so that's got the 25th.
My preference would be the 26th, but I could make the 24th work also.
I can do,
Oh, wait, and Wednesdays are difficult for Lisa anyway. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I could do the 24th.
I can do the 24th or the 25th.
Well, actually, yeah, I can do the 25th.
The grant.
Yeah, I can. So we use
Okay,
the-
okay.
So does the 24th sound promising?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Let's call it the 24th,
What time?
7 p.m.
Yep.
I'll
Okay.
book the Zoom.
Yes, so
Hopefully Grant. Brett can make.
yes.
I thought I was gonna have a week, but no. That's okay, I'm fresh. I'm back. 16.
Okay, so minutes. Hey, Betsy, I got you may have been CC'd on it, from Kate Battles, an email saying that 2 sets of minutes from March hadn't been received.
Said all of them. I mean, we are up to date.
Yeah, we are up.
But I'll go back, I'll like,
Okay,
I
she
didn't
might,
get CC'd on it.
it might have gotten lost in the shuffle or something.
All right.
Yeah. we
No,
can-
I've been
And sometimes
diligent.
if you post one and then cancel it for any reason,
I got Monday.
no
Yeah,
minutes,
yes.
and I have a posted meeting, and then right next to it, I have a posted meet the same day, canceled.
Oh,
I don't know that you need to do more than that, but.
I'll look and see.
So,
okay. And then other than that, we do not have any minutes to approve this evening.
I think we do.
We do.
I'm sorry. Oh, that you emailed them out, of course.
23rd, yeah.
That's why they're not posted.
oh. Posting a meeting for the
18.
June. You won't know the time. And is there any need to have
Hallway meeting.
a hallway meeting first? That hallway's gonna be awfully busy.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Or it's been at 6:30, so
And I
we
think
should
there's,
probably do it for the start.
I think there's a tree hearing. Deb, is that right? We have a tree hearing with the select board on the 18th.
And 18th.
Yeah, so that's usually a posted 6:30,
Usually, yeah.
yeah. So. I mean,
We can always post the meeting earlier. I mean, I know it's not great practice, but you can post it for 6:30 and then
Right.
not, not
Right.
meet until
Yeah, you will, yeah.
7:30, whatever.
You can amend.
oh yeah, once their agenda comes out too.
Mm.
Can we amend the time?
You
Okay.
can amend the time right up to the time.
All right, learn something new.
me too. Everyone, okay, if there are no changes or edits, would somebody, what's the date on those again?
May
May-
23rd.
23rd.
May 23rd. Would somebody like to move to accept the May 23rd, 2024 minutes as written? Moved. Is there a second? All those in favor? Unanimous? All right, and I believe that's it. Got one last motion, if somebody wants to do the honors,
Motion to adjourn.
and is there a second?
Second.
I wanna see you.
Yeah, let's just hang out.
We don't wanna go.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.